you've got someone with their eye on you right now. This is Emperor energy. This is someone that is in that big boss energy. So this could be a work connection. They could be a manager, a superior, or someone that's just even worked at the workplace longer than you have. They have some kind of seniority, some kind of authority. It feels that it's really caught them off guard, that they've developed feelings for you. This could be somebody that you collaborated with on a project or that you report directly to, that it feels like they have a lot of professional respect for you, or there's a desire to kind of like help you further your career or to see you succeed professionally. But then there's also this kind of romantic component that's coming in that is making this person a little uncertain as far as like how to proceed in this situation. Yeah, we've got Knight of Cups. So this is somebody that is sitting and they are thinking. They are consciously kind of like looking at, what are my options in this situation? Because I can't just pretend that this is, a platonic circumstance. I can't just pretend that, this person does a really good job, or I admire the way that they carry themselves. It may even be somebody that you don't work directly with. They just kind of like work for the same employer as you. You may not have very much contact with this person. And so there's a sense of them almost kind of looking at the chain of command in some sort of way, or what might be possible in terms of like getting to know you better or approaching you in some sort of way. If it's just been kind of like surface level interactions or very few interactions, this may actually be somebody that has recently transferred to your workspace. So they may have like worked for your company for a very long time, but they've just kind of come to your location. They may have recently been somebody that was promoted even. And so circumstances have changed for them. They're not wanting to like overstep any sort of boundaries or make anybody uncomfortable. But there's a sense of like, I can't deny that this is more than just kind of like a crush. This is something that is feeling a lot more intense. It's feeling a lot more deep than I had hoped. Or this might even be somebody that hasn't had a crush on anyone in a while, and so this has kind of caught them off guard that it's happened in this way, like in a circumstance in the workplace where it was like they weren't looking for love, and yet something is kind of awakening within them. Yeah, we've got the Six of Cups. So this is the energy of somebody that is trying to be very mindful as far as how they approach this situation. You may catch this person like checking you out, looking at you. If you have like team meetings or sort of group settings, you may almost feel like, I think someone's watching me, and you look up and this person like looks away very quickly from, the other side of the table, the other end of the room. This person may be like coming up with excuses, or they may start to kind of come up with excuses to walk by your desk, walk by your cubicle. You may find that this person is reaching out with communication a lot more. And again, there's kind of this dual energy there in terms of like, they really respect your work ethic. They really like what you bring to the table professionally, or, within this kind of setting. It's possible this might also, with the Six of Cups, be like a friend group or some kind of social circle where that could be a factor of consideration, is sort of like, I don't want to mess up the vibe or, the essence of what everybody has going on. Like sort of, it's a very kind of close circle, or it's a very close community. And so there's a sense of like, if I'm wrong about these feelings, or there's some kind of incompatibility, I don't want to make it awkward for everyone. I don't want to make it awkward for other people. There may also be people in the mix, people in the situation, that maybe they had dated previously and chosen to remain friends with, or maybe you dated certain people previously and chose to remain friends with. It feels like something that's kind of like, it could become a very complicated mess. There could be like stepping over other people's feelings, or like other people's feelings being a consideration, or even sort of this idea of like, what would other people think, or if it didn't like work out between the two of you romantically, or if this person like approached you or spoke on their feelings and you rejected them, sort of like what would that look like? For some people, it's kind of like your office may have policies about like, you can't date people in the workspace. So that could be a consideration where despite the red tape, it's like, okay, but I'm really like attracted to this person. It feels like it's more than just your physical appearance. It's like a lot of different things about you. It's your voice, it's your energy, it's your scent, it's the way you carry yourself, it's the way you physically present, it's what you bring to the table, even, you know, intellectually or professionally. Like all these different things are kind of resonating with this person in a way that time spent away from this kind of group setting or this like office environment, they're thinking about this a lot, kind of like, what can I do, if anything at all? And it's getting harder and harder for them to kind of just like stuff this down inside and kind of ignore these feelings. Yeah, we've got Three of Cups here. So again, this is something that kind of speaks to, you know, group settings, other people in the mix. This is somebody that wants to avoid drama. They want to avoid rumors at all costs. This may be somebody that it's kind of a tricky situation because it's like, especially if it involves the workspace or, you know, like a friend group, then there's not the ability, they feel like, to necessarily have kind of like the displays of affection that they would normally take in romantic connections, because there's a need for professionalism, or because there's a sense of like, we can't just start to get to know one another, we can't just start at square one, and it's happening in the midst of, you know, some kind of community or some kind of friend group, some kind of social setting, or some kind of like circle of people, where there's going to be other eyes on this situation, where people might notice, hey, is something going on between you and that person? Hey, why are you giving them all this extra attention? You know, why is there almost the sense of like, people might have already sort of like noticed, or might have hinted at things, or this could just be somebody that's sitting in the energy of like worry or a bit paranoid, like, oh my gosh, can anyone tell that I have a crush? Or again, it might have already been brought to their attention in some sort of way, like, yeah, is there something going on between you and that person? You know, like, what's the story? What's the deal there? And so this is definitely a factor of consideration for them at this time. But, you know, even despite all of that, this is somebody that like wants to, it feels like, find a way beyond that, find some kind of middle ground, find some sort of way to not have like a hidden connection, but there's some aspect where it's kind of taboo. And so the first step forward may be something that you're both needing to use like your discretion in some sort of way, or this person could really be on the fence, like, is there anything I can do? And sort of what's the approach here? Because it wouldn't be through the normal or kind of ordinary process of how they would, you know, express that they like someone, that they're interested in someone, that they're attracted to someone. It's possible though, also for some of you with this Three of Cups, this person could be in a relationship, they could be married. That could be something where it's kind of like, okay, I'm in this other circumstance, maybe they're not even like happily married, and so now you've kind of come into this equation as something that is kind of pulling their attention away from their home life, from their circumstance. This is somebody that might even be sort of like considering, what are my options here in terms of like walking away from another connection? If that's the case, it feels like though that this is something where this isn't kind of like interrupting a happy home. This may be something where this person has been, you know, kind of in sort of like a stale situation, or maybe even like a toxic kind of situation, a toxic marriage, toxic relationship. They've been thinking about getting out for quite some time, and there's almost a sense of kind of like, here's this opportunity, like these feelings have arisen within them, and is this a circumstance that is kind of like the universe sort of nudging them, you know, to create closure in their other situation, or to start to kind of like think of other options. Like, they don't have to stay where they are miserable. There's love out there for them, with other people, or there's another kind of life that they can create for themselves. And so again, there's a lot of thought that's going on at this particular point in time with this person. Like, what am I feeling? What is possible in this situation? Yeah, Knight of Swords. So this is somebody that wants to talk to you more. They want to have more interactions with you, but they're very guarded about that. There's a sense like, I don't want to say the wrong thing. I don't want to, you know, overstep any boundaries, especially if there's like third parties in the mix. There's a sense of like, I don't want, you know, something to get started that then puts everybody in an awkward position. This person may have a lot to lose if they are like a boss or a manager, or, you know, kind of like up on the food chain professionally speaking. So that might be a consideration as well, but it's like they can't hold back. They can't just sort of squash these feelings. They can't just sort of squash this interest. So Again, this is somebody that's like planning. They're kind of like checking you out when they have the opportunity to do that. This may even be someone that in the midst of kind of like, group meetings or social settings, they find themselves kind of tumbling into this energy of fantasy, where you might even see this person, it looks like they're daydreaming. They got kind of like a glazed look on their face, and 9 times out of 10 it feels like it's something where they've kind of caught sight of you, or they have these direct interactions, or they're in close proximity, and they're off to the races as far as these thoughts, these fantasies, these feelings like, gosh, what would it be like if you and I hooked up, if you and I got together, if something developed out of this? Yeah, Knight of Pentacles. So this person is determined one way or another to kind of, get to the bottom of sort of like, where did these feelings come from? Where's this interest coming from? A part of them is also kind of, if they're in a third party situation, they're like, am I just really unhappy in this circumstance and looking for a distraction, looking for an excuse? So if there is a third party in the mix, this is somebody it feels like that would hold themselves back from taking any like direct action towards you. They would see it almost like a challenge, like the opportunity to connect more deeply with you would almost be like the prize that they would have their eye on to sort of wrap up the karmic cycle that they are in. Again, this is something with this Knight of Pentacles. If they're in a third party situation, it's been an unhappy situation for quite some time. There may have been talk in that situation before about, maybe we should split up, maybe we should call it quits. But then one or both people agreed to kind of just stick it out. Only nothing changed. It's kind of just the same old toxicity sort of month after month, year after year. And so this may be something that is kind of incentivizing this person, to make a hard decision, to make that choice, to kind of exit the circumstance. And so if that applies in this situation, then it may just be something where this could be kind of the start, or something that could even just kind of continue as far as like a lot of sexual chemistry with this person, a lot of like unspoken feelings, a lot of like intense eye contact, something that is almost like building an energetic bridge between the two of you. And this is somebody that if they choose to make that exit from another circumstance and situation, then it's kind of like when they're back in alignment with being able to have like love and romance again, which it feels like would be pretty quickly after, kind of like a cooling off period, or whatever they would need to do to kind of get out of one circumstance. It's like you're the first choice, you're the option, you're somebody that they would want to advance towards. Yeah, Five of Swords. So there's something that they need to leave behind. So this can either be, again, sort of like a circumstance that they are in, a relationship that they are in. Maybe even for some people, this could be like they're not over an ex yet, or they've been grieving a connection, a relationship that they got out of, a divorce that has happened somewhat recently, a mindset of kind of like what they were looking for in terms of romance, or where they were even kind of looking to meet people, that idea of like inner office romance or social circle or friend circle. This is something that's come on very unexpectedly. And so whether it's like an actual other person, or just some kind of perception about the rules, the boundaries, the etiquette, what would be acceptable, what wouldn't, all of that kind of needs to be picked apart by this person. And it feels like they are actively doing that. Sort of like, what are my options in this situation? What are the realistic boundaries or barriers versus what are just kind of like fears, or pessimism, or like worst case scenario thoughts. So you're heavily on this person's mind at this particular point in time. They're not satisfied with the fact that it's not just a linear path towards you. It's not just a straight path towards you, that there's some kind of challenge that they're needing to work through. That's not something that is turning this person off, or is causing them to say, well, okay, I guess then it's just not meant to be. Like, they're very determined to sort of like see this through to something more. Yeah, Eight of Swords. This is the energy of baby steps. So this is something that, again, can speak to this person. The most that they can do is just, start having more conversations with you, start having more direct interactions with you, sort of keeping the intention at the forefront of their mind of like when they interact with you, you may notice something in terms of the intensity, the eye contact, the intensity of the experience, almost like the particles in the air in the room that you're in together being very charged, very electric, something that is a manifestation. It is a ripple effect of this internal desire that they have. And for some, this is like all that they can do because of those third party situations, because of something that they need to walk away from, that they are now incentivized or challenged, almost like, okay, you have other options out there. There's other people to connect with. You don't have to stay in your miserable circumstance. You can choose to do that, or you can choose to move in another direction. For others, though, it's that idea of kind of like, what would people think? This wouldn't be something where you could kind of just quietly get to know one another, and then sort of bring other people into the loop, professionally, like work friends, or even social circle of like, hey, I met someone, hey, I'm talking to someone, because it feels like you're in very close proximity to one another, where it'd be very hard to like hide this from other people, or it would take a lot of effort, or some kind of strategy on both of your parts, as far as like, okay, this is how we kind of keep this under wraps until if and when it became something more serious or more official. So they're definitely they're thinking about this. They're looking at it from all different angles right now. Yeah, Nine of Cups. This is something where the idea of getting to know you more, opening up emotionally, or allowing these feelings to flow, it brings them a lot of satisfaction, a lot of happiness, a lot of pleasure. It feels like in whatever context you relate to one another right now, they see you as a very bright light, as someone that is almost like sunshine in a dark room, sunshine on a cloudy day. So maybe you're the person that is like the life of the office, or somebody that, even just kind of your positive disposition, or what you bring to the table energetically, actually, intellectually, all of that is something which it feels like is very inspirational, very reassuring to this person. What they know of you already at this point in time is kind of like, it's checking off a lot of the boxes, as far as like on a person to person level, people that they respect, people that they admire, people that they want to almost like step closer towards. And then you got all these kind of like feelings, these attractions that have developed for you. So it's definitely something that is compelling them to really think about this and find some way forward. Yeah, Six of Wands. They want to be victorious in this situation. They don't just want to kind of throw in the towel of like, well, it may be, a bit of a challenge to advance forward. This is almost something that has activated like a competitive urge within this person. They're looking at the nature of challenge, at kind of what they have to navigate, sort of leapfrog along these different little stepping stones internally and externally, in order to present themselves to you, their intentions, their openness, their willingness, to explore something more. They're seeing that as kind of like, okay, I'm up for the challenge, or I'm readying myself to be up to that challenge, because the idea of, uncovering the mystery of this and kind of exploring it more openly, or seeing kind of what they feel might be a lot of, pleasure and excitement and joy between the two of you, a lot of wish fulfillment, that's something that it's like, I would rather know than not know. I would rather take a leap of faith and kind of see what would happen, rather than sort of just looking at this as something like, okay, maybe a little more difficult to sort of start this connection or progress it forward, and then just sort of sit by idly and always wonder what if. Yeah, the Star. So again, this is something where you've really captivated this person. You've caught this person's attention. You've restored hope within this person in some sort of way, that, that there's good people out there is what's coming through. So maybe this is somebody that, even that kind of energy of a third party, this may be just sort of like they're jaded from their last breakup. This is somebody that may have been kind of closed off emotionally. They weren't looking for partnership, they weren't looking for love, and all of a sudden, you cracked open the heart space. You've caused this person to look beyond their woundedness towards the idea of like, okay, maybe I'm ready to love again. Maybe I'm ready to take a leap of faith again in the direction of romance. And if that's the case, it's almost like there's a part of them that might be like, hey, it couldn't have come any easier. This is somebody I've met through work, or I've met through a social setting. I didn't have to kind of go and get on the dating apps, or, kind of like go out and socialize with the intention of like, I'm going to meet someone here. I'm going to meet someone at happy hour. I'm going to meet someone, at this kind of like singles gathering, or, something like that. So there's almost like a part of them that is feeling like you're sort of placed in one another's paths, and there's this emotional energy for a reason, but kind of like the Star, it's like it's very out of reach. They got to find a way to build a rocket and kind of like navigate towards you. It's not something that is just kind of, they can open up and things can develop between the two of you. But it's something that it's definitely it's a positive development. They're kind of confused as sort of like what to do next, or they're a bit challenged about what to do next. But this is definitely the energy of somebody that's like, I want to reach for that. I want to get out of my comfort zone. I don't just want to, be thwarted by the challenges and obstacles. I don't just want to sit here and always wonder what if. So this is somebody that they got stars in their eyes when they see you. You are somebody that brings a very unique energy, a very pleasant energy to their life at this particular point in time. And so it feels like, it may become more obvious for you, or even for some of you, it'll be apparent for the first time, as far as like, this is somebody that's got a crush, this is somebody that's got interest, this is somebody that is trying to navigate a variety of like psychological challenges in this circumstance, or the energies of like perception, kind of what would people think, or what would be the logistics of how we would progress forward. But their heart is very much kind of like reaching for you. They're definitely in their feelings. They definitely have a deep attraction to you. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. Please give the video a like or comment to claim these energies. Subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more content. Don't forget to hit the bell button to get notifications every time I post a new video. And if you would like to book a personal reading with me, I offer those through my Etsy shop, and there's a link for that below. I hope to see you again in another video. Please take care and be well.